All right, hello. This is a tutorial for the Python RVR project. Um, there are essentially two different ways that you can connect to the robot. One is by using your built-in terminal, which is going to be PowerShell if it's Windows or Terminal if it's Mac. The other, which I kind of recommend because it's going to make things easier for you, is VS Code. But let's just go ahead and start with the first one. You can just open up PowerShell by typing in PowerShell in your search. You should see it. If you don't see it, you can always go to the, let's say, store and open up the Microsoft Store, search for PowerShell. It should be there. But anyway, let's go ahead and go back to PowerShell. When you open it, you should see a screen like this. And then when it's ready to use, it'll have this little basically your username, C users, blah, blah, blah. That kind of tells you what directory you're currently in. All right, so to connect to a robot, we have to use what's called an SSH. And it's basically a way for remote computers to talk to each other through the terminal. So the format of that kind of looks like this. Oops. So we can just go ahead and paste that into there. Might have to right click to paste in terminal if you're using Windows. But we're going to keep everything the same except the XXX. X. What we have to do for that is we have to go here and look up which robot that we're using. I happen to be using, let's see, where, Grumpy. All right, so this is what their ID is going to look like, right? Suppose we could just copy that whole thing actually and go ahead and get rid of all of this. So at, and then right click. So we have that. And we can hit enter. Now the first time you connect, it's going to say authenticity of host can't be established. That's because you haven't connected to it before. So we can just say yes, and it will permanently add you to known hosts, so you don't get that kind of error again. Now the next thing is, let's go back here. Now, in the YouTube video, I can't show you the password. And so I'm actually going to take off the display, but you should still hear me. But on that page, if you scroll down a little bit further, we'll have the password. Where is it? It'll probably be EF230 and then something blah, blah, blah. So you want to go ahead and type in that password. So I'm going to do that now. Fall, da, da, da. All right, I'll go ahead and turn the screen back on. All right, so you can see I basically put in the password here. Now you'll notice something that as you type, you won't actually see characters pop up or even like the circle dots that you might in other websites. And that's kind of just a Linux thing to be more secure so that people don't know if they're like looking at you typing in your password, they don't know how long it is, blah, blah, blah. But it is typing. And you can try it, a couple of times, I think up to 3 times, and then you just have to rerun this command again if you fail it 3 times. So no worries. But anyway, this is what you should see if you've successfully connected. So I won't really go into all of the commands here. You can kind of just scroll down the rest of the page and see what they do, but some basic commands are list, which just lists all of the, kind of like, the file explorer, it lists all of the folders that you can currently see at your directory. speaking of which, pwd, that will get your current directory that you're in, right? So right now I'm in home pi. I could go to desktop here, for instance, by doing cd, which stands for change directory. Desktop, it does have autocomplete, so I can just hit tab after I hit desk. And you see now it says we're in desktop. Whereas this kind of squiggly sign kind of meant the home directory, or it's kind of short for the home directory. You can see it's home directory then desktop. If I do pwd, you'll see that we're now in home pi desktop. Let me think. So that's about it. If you want to go back up one directory, it's just cd dot dot. See if there's any more interesting commands. You can always run a script that you find. So let's go ahead and find one. So I'm thinking probably, now let's try documents. So you can always hit tab after doing a CD and it will like make this slash. That means like going into the next directory. If you hit tab again, it'll autocomplete if there's only one directory. In this case, it's vol rvr, which is what I was looking for. And if I do ls, you'll see that there are some .py files, that's Python. You could run those files by doing Python 3 and then ef230 drive, right? And then hit enter. And it will make your robot drive. So be careful of that one. There's other ones that you could test out. Let's see, there's the cat command, which kind of just lets you view it from the directory. And in the tutorial, like later on, you'll see that how you can actually edit this code. So this is kind of like what was in that file, all of this. But the terminal is kind of somewhat harder to use, especially for students starting off with coding. And so what I actually suggest, we can just hit exit here. Now, normally at the very end, if you're gonna go ahead and turn off the robot, you would want to do sudo shutdown now, as shown. But in this case, I'm gonna wanna connect to it with VS Code, so I'm just gonna hit exit. That'll close my connection to there. And close, yes. So VS Code is kind of like an easier way to kind of do all of this. And so you can always just search up VS Code in Google or your preferred search engine. You should see something like this, and you can just go to download, the latest stable build, and it should automatically download it for you, which I won't do right now because I already have it, but just so you know. All right, so when you open it, let's go ahead and open up a new window in VS Code. You might be greeted with the welcome screen like this, but we don't need it. So the only thing you need to do really, yours might not look like this because of all of these icons, because I have different extensions installed. So don't worry about that, but you should have something that looks like this, or at least called extensions. And the only extension you need to download is called Remote SSH. And it will be by actual Microsoft right here. And it'll probably have like 14 million something, probably higher by the time you do this. But there should be an install button somewhere. You just go ahead and do that, and you might have to restart VS Code, but then you're good. And that's all you have to do. Once you've done that, restarted VS Code, you should have this little icon now that pops up. And this is to kind of hold all of your SSH things. So you can see I actually have an SSH for a server that I use at the university. But let's say I want to connect to the robot, right? So I can go over here, I can do new connection. And I'm basically going to have the same exact thing that we had last time, pi at, and then hopefully I still have it pasted. Yeah. All right, so pi at, and then this. I'm gonna hit yes. Generally hit the top one, user, uh, whatever your username is, .ssh config. Sure, that's fine. And I think that should probably be it. Yeah, you don't have to open the config or anything. So go ahead and hit refresh once you've added that. The refresh is up here, and you should see this now. You can go ahead and click this Connect Current Window button. The first time that you start up, it'll ask you what type of platform this is that you're connecting to. You want to say Linux because it's a Linux platform. And then I have to do the password thing again. So this is where I turn off the display, and you would enter the password here. So again, that would be on the EF page. So I'm just quickly doing that. And VS Code might have the dots, depending on what system you're using. And once I've entered that, let me see. All right, everything should be setting up now. All right. Okay, so I can re-show my display. All right. And this is what you should see in VS Code. It might say some stuff like this. You can just go ahead and click exit, whatever. Okay. So the reason why this is nice is because you can go to this panel, the Explorer, and you can hit Open Folder. And that will open, and you can just do, so when you're working on your own folder, you can always navigate into like, downloads. There's nothing in downloads. You can always go to desktop and then your team's folder. And you can click OK, and you'll have all of your folders here. But I'm just going to go ahead and do the base top directory. Nope, not that one. Hit OK. All right, come on. Maybe I have to do this and then pi and then hit OK. There we go. All right. Okay, Linux. I guess I have to do it again. Oh, okay. All right. So when you open up, every time you open up a new window and connect to it again, you'll have to re-input the password. So let me do that real quick. All right, we're back. All right, and you can just say yes, you trust the authors here. That way you can have full functionality. But you can see now we have kind of like a Windows file explorer, right, or Mac Finder. You can just see all of these things. You can kind of explore a little bit more easily, see all these different team examples. And you can always right click and say new folder and say team, fall 20, no, yes, no, this would be spring 2023. And you can say like C4 or something, right? Or whatever. Or C4 if it's taken, whatever, Sure. Let's do team C3. Sure. And then if you wanted to start working in that directory, like you wanted to go ahead and copy some files into there, you can always just click this one and you can say copy, click on this folder, hit paste. It'll make a copy into your thing. Now this is ready. You can close both of these because I can't remember which one it opened first. But you can open up this, and now you should be able to just edit. Just add whatever code you want. That'll kind of be, like another work page where we kind of explain how to do all of the Python stuff, but that's essentially how you can do it. And you'll see when you need to save, it'll have a dot here, and you just hit Control S or whatever it is on Mac, and it'll save. You can open up a terminal, kind of like we were doing previously. You'll see that it'll open up a terminal. Now, normally when you do a terminal, if you're, for instance, had I opened up just from this directory, it would actually be in that directory in the terminal, but it's always going to start you wherever your like topmost folder is that you see in your view. And you can use all the same commands, so those are going to be the identical to how I showed you previously. Let me think. The only other thing you might want to install, yours might not look like this. You might want to install some of the Python stuff, so you can just type in Python. And there might be some things like this, which will definitely help because it'll like do syntax syntax highlighting, things like that, code formatting. Just kind of makes it look, easier, kind of like MATLAB does. And yeah, you can read more about them here. But basically, just this one would be really all you would need. Let me think. I think that's about it. So let's say you're done and you want to download this folder or file, right? Because you want to upload it. It's kind of complicated through the terminal. You would have to use secure copy protocol. That kind of stuff is going to be down here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, it's something like this. Go ahead and just, like you could read through this on your own, but basically it would be like that. But a much easier way, and this is kind of why I suggested VS Code, is that you can just right click and hit download, and it will do it for you. And then it'll be on your computer. So you could go and find it. Where did I actually save it? Downloads? Nope. Let me do it one more time just to see where it went. Desktop. All right, so desktop. And you should see your Python file now. All right, I think that's about it for the code and connecting. Hopefully you have a good experience with this. And yeah, just be sure to ask a TA if you need help.